Okay, when people say, are you saying that our government was involved with the 911 thing? There was a lot more to this government than appears to be on the surface. Like, for example, I think still in school they're probably teaching you there's a three-branch system of the judicial branch and the executive branch, the legislative branch. But the secret shadow government, it has its own branches too. I'll read you a little statement here. It says the secret shadow government is a large organizational network which operates alongside the officially elected and appointed government of the United States of America. Just as with the official government, the secret government has functional branches. It has the executive branch, which includes the Council on Foreign Relations, which is basically the Illuminati in America, the Trilateral Commission, which is probably one the same, the Bilderberg Group, National Security Council, the Joint Chiefs of Staff, the National Program Office, the Federal Emergency Management Agency. Then you have an intelligence branch, which is the National Security Agency, the National Reconnaissance Office, National Reconnaissance Organization, the Central Intelligence Agency, the Federal Bureau of Investigation, Counterintelligence Division, Department of Energy, U.S. Army Intelligence, U.S. Naval Office of Naval Intelligence, U.S. Air Force Office, Defense Intelligence Agency, NASA Intelligence, Air Force Special Security, Drug Enforcement Agency, Air Force Electronic Security Command, Project Deepwater, Project Paperclip, Defense Electronic Security Command, Federal Police Agency Intelligence. Then you have the War Department, which is CIA's Directorate for Science and Technology, Strategic Defense Initiative Office, Ballistic Missile Defense Organization, Idaho National Engineering Laboratories, Lawrence Livermore National Laboratories, Department of Energy, Area 51, Groom Lake, Papoose Lake, U.S. Special Forces, Defense Advanced Research, the Jason Group, Aquarius Group, and I'm not listing all these different projects, Project Snowbird, Cold Empire, Aquarius, Millstar, and then you have a weapons industry branch, which is the Stanford Research Institute, Wackenhut Corporation, well, that's a dangerous one there, Reynolds Electronic Engineering, Northrop Hughes, PSI Tech Corporation, then you have a financial department. Federal Reserve, the CIA self-financing, Department of Justice self-financing, Special Forces self-financing. So when we're being told there's three branches of government, really there's eight. Okay, so there's eight branches, and these entities are the ones that certainly the 911 thing was orchestrated within those branches. I don't want you to think it's like Congress or the senators or the Department of Forestry or some other, relatively mild aspect of government, or even necessarily the president or the vice president of that, although certainly they had to be involved. But they're almost like sitting back watching because their strings are being pulled from higher places as well. And even though maybe these congressmen can say that weren't involved or whatever, certainly some of them have had to be. In other words, if they're not serving the interests of these people, they're not going to get elected, So that's why they all signed through the Patriot Act and the Roving Powers Act and the Sunset Provision and all these real dangerous parts of the Patriot Act. You would think it'd be met with a little objection, but it all went through. So I think they realized that if they're going to have a seat in Congress or whatever, certainly a few of them have to be on the program. But so when you think in government, it's not in that sense, but it's this aspect. And how that government grew is back in like 1947 when during a certain administration, I believe Eisenhower administration, before that, maybe right in the Truman administration, Truman may have warned us about this growing. He did warn us actually about the industrial military complex. And what's happened now is that shadow government, that satellite government that operates in the United States, has grown very, very powerful, because you can't look at 911 and not talk about the New World Order. And you can't talk about the New World Order without mentioning the Illuminati or one of these others. And you can't really address any of those without looking at the satanic influences in this country, and you can't really look at that without talking about UFOs. In other words, every one of them, they all have things that make them all part of one big thing. They are all tied together, interwoven. So when Alex Jones, maybe for example, will come out in 911 and Nazi this and all this stuff, but he won't touch the UFO thing with the 10-foot pole. Or David Icke or one of these other guys, they'll come out and they all have their little areas of expertise, but you really have to look at the whole thing and how it affects each other. And at the top of this pyramid, you've got the struggle between Satan fighting against anything good and his influence upon the people, and then right below that would be this UFO deal. Now, back when we've known about these craft that have crashed, and we've had these things for a while. In fact, we've figured out how to down these craft, and we're trying to get all this technology, and we got the secret shadow government that's growing way more sophisticated and powerful, and is keeping everything from us. And we get little trinkets like these BlackBerries and a cell phone and things like that. Really, our technology has progressed quite slow while they suppress us, and they've got all this super high-tech stuff. Well, back when the president wrote these executive orders that said, look, you do whatever you guys have to keep the lid on this UFO thing, because we tested the public and they're freaking out. They're going to all start worshiping UFOs, and they made this determination we can't handle it. So they were going to bury that and keep it under the lid at any cost. And in that executive order, he said, I will disavow any knowledge of any of this stuff. You guys do whatever you have to keep the lid on this. And those group of individuals, the Jason Scholars, or maybe known as Majestic 12, have grown and grown and grown, and have had to fund themselves secretly because they can't go to Congress on that drug trade and everything. And now they're out there at Area 51, and now we got congressmen, senators, and presidents that can't set foot on that property. They don't have the security clearance. So this thing is growing crazy, right? And then it runs these secret little programs like that Ollie North was on trial for, and the Iran-Contra affair, and all these things. They have all these little secret things, and they sidestep the Constitution and all of its thing to the point now, this military, they're above the law. They don't worry about that because they had these executive orders that said you do whatever you have to and whatever was necessary, and didn't have to answer to anyone. So that is the part of the crazy part of the government that's grown out of control, and a very dangerous situation. And now we have all these mind control experiments and creating these assassins in the military and all this other stuff. It's pretty nuts. So that is the aspect of when you say is our government involved. I hope that brings a little bit more clarity to maybe where this thing comes from. They're far more powerful than Congress or the senators. Those guys are like a friggin' dog and pony show for the American public, so that we actually think we're involved in the decision-making processes and the policies that affect this country. When the RAND Corporation and all these other things, those are the guys that determine the policy, and we get to deal with the little subjects like, I don't know, small little triviality laws, but not the major policies that affect everything.